The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes was directed by Francis Lawrence, who directed the last three Hunger Games movies, Catching Fire, Mockingjay Part 1 and Part 2, and this one is a prequel that takes place 64 years before the events of the first Hunger Games movie, way before Katniss Everdeen ever existed. In this one, we're following the story of how Coriolanus Snow, played by Tom Blythe, and how that eventual rise came in the form of first being a mentor to one of the tributes chosen from one of the districts, District 12 that being, and that was Lucy Gray Baird, played by Rachel Zegler, and eventually how his methods set up what the Hunger Games future is, and also looking at the politics in place at the time that eventually led to things becoming even more worse. When it comes to the Hunger Games movies, I liked the first one. I thought it was a very good movie. I think Catching Fire is probably top 5 young adult adaptations of all time. I absolutely love that movie. I think Mockingjay Part 1 was alright. I thought Mockingjay Part 2 was alright. And so my record with the movies is decent. I think 2 was the zenith of the franchise, and nothing has come close to that. And cutting to the chase over here, this movie doesn't do that either. I do like it more than the previous Mockingjay movies though. Right out the gate, I was impressed with what Francis Lawrence did, especially in that first half of the movie, like when you're with the younger Snow and seeing how the games were coming into play at the time, him getting to know Lucy Gray and eventually the bond that's building between them, trying to get her to survive the games and keep her alive as much as possible. All of that stuff was really, really great. And I think Tom Blythe did a really, really great job in this movie. He's a really good young President Snow. He did a really, really good job with that. But also, Rachel Zegler is terrific in this movie. I think as far as her career goes, this is her 3rd movie ever, which is crazy. Her first movie was West Side Story with Steven Spielberg, and then it was a DC movie, and now we're in a Hunger Games movie. That is a hell of a resume to have for your 3rd movie, but she's really, really great in it, and she has an incredible singing voice, as we've known from West Side Story, that we get to hear a lot of in this movie, because there's a lot of live performances that are going on in here, and I think both of them did a really good job of bringing those characters to life and dealing with the realities of what was going on, because neither of them have fully experienced something like the Hunger Games before, and so there are a lot of naive thoughts going into it when it comes to how certain things are going to go down, but then eventually as the games kick off and those thoughts become reality, suddenly stuff starts to come into perspective, and they're starting to realize that all of the discrepancies that exist when it comes to the capital and then the districts and how things are going on in terms of political and social differences, how there's some common ground in that. And Francis Lawrence does a great job, like I said, of directing them. The game sequences and, of course, everything that's going on is really, really great. He does a wonderful job once again. I think he did good with all the other movies he's done before in this franchise, even if I didn't love the last 2 Mockingjay movies. I think the production design and art direction, once again, is immaculate. This is a very good-looking movie and some spectacular visuals as well. This great score, once again, by James Newton Howard, who has done an incredible job with this franchise, and once again he does a really, really great job over here, and the scale and scope of certain things is shown in really, really riveting ways. Also, the supporting cast is really great. I thought Hunter Schafer was really good as Tigris, and I think she was a very interesting part of the movie, emotionally speaking, which I wish we had some more time with, because there is a somewhat of a connection there, which I'd have liked to have seen explored a little bit more. Viola Davis as Dr. Gall, who is just this mad, evil scientist lady. I'm very, very positive every day she showed up to set, she was having the time of her life, and you can absolutely tell that. Josh Andres Rivera was really, really good as well. So was Peter Dinklage. Jason Schwartzman was also a lot of fun in this movie, had some really, really funny lines. Notice how I'm saying a lot of this is the stuff with the games and all of the stuff leading up to that, because that is a big chunk of the movie. It's about 2/3 of the movie is that stuff. Then there is another part of the movie, which is the 3rd act of the film, because this movie's long, and there's a whole 45 minutes, almost to an hour, which happens after that, which is taking place with certain other things and how those events are leading into what the characters eventually become. This is where I think the film loses momentum. It becomes a little unwieldy, and it does drag out and also rush at the same time. There are certain sequences which I really wish they had taken some more time to set up, and then there are some sequences that I think went on a few minutes too long, and I was just kind of having this weird sense of whiplash. Like, there was this great momentum for at least 2/3 of the movie, and then it just kind of falls apart by the end of it. The last about 20 minutes or so really rushed things in a different kind of frustrating way. Let me explain what I mean, because I've seen some comments saying that the ending is kind of frustrating, but in terms of outcomes, not really. This is something that you were expected to, know is going to happen, because we know what Snow is going to become. So eventually, the way things progress, you're kind of expecting certain outcomes. So I don't think it's frustrating in terms of a, emotional way. Like, this is a character piece of how he eventually rose to the top. So I'm getting that movie. I'm not having a complaint on that. It is frustrating though, because I would have liked to see more of how we eventually got to that. We kind of run in that last bit. And so I think that was a little bit disappointing, and it did definitely affect the entire movie as a result of that. It doesn't take away from the fact that the first, like I said, 2/3 of it, I was incredibly riveted by Songbirds and Snakes. That's a long title. I'm just saying that part of it. I was very happy with what I was seeing up until that point. I think they could have done a little bit better with the final act of the film. Overall, I think it's solid. I think it's still a pretty decent movie, but it could have been a lot better in some parts, and I did enjoy it. Die-hard fans of the franchise, I think, will be really pleased. There's a few moments in here, lots of Easter eggs and references that you're gonna latch onto, and they're gonna be pretty fun moments where, a character will say something or hint at something, and you go, it's that, because we'll get to that at some point. That was really, really fun. But besides that, it's a very fun movie, albeit a bit flawed, but I did like a lot more of it than I disliked. I'm gonna give The Hungerbirds, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, a 7 out of 10. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Look forward to more videos very soon. This has been a very busy few days with Monarch and Napoleon and now this. There's a review for Wish coming very soon as well, which I did get to see earlier this morning at the time of recording this review. Looking forward to talking about that as well. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe. Thank you very much once again. And may the odds be ever in your favor. I should have done that.